Hello and welcome to Horizon World. Let's go! This is network events versus local events. And when it comes to thinking about all of these things, I like to think about the headsets and your computer, your editor, and the server as houses. So when you are making a input, that's getting sent to the server. The server is doing all the interactions, the background logic, and then it's feeding back into your headset or your desktop the results of that. And then when it comes to the scripts and i.e. entities, I like to think of them as people. And so by default, all of the entities get initialized on the server. So by default, these are able to make local event calls to themselves, and they're able to make network event calls. So I like to think of the local events as kind of conversations, as like whispers, and they're able to work because they are inside of the house. The moment that an entity leaves the house, then this one could still make a local event call, but it wouldn't work because the other entity wouldn't be within the same house. So that's what happens there. Now I like to think of network calls as kind of like being on the phone. So these two are able to communicate to each other just fine. They're also able to communicate with the other ones via a local event, or they're all connected. The difference is that when this person leaves, they are still able to talk. They can talk, and because it's a network call, they're able to talk to all of these entities. But this one is not able to make a local event call to any of these inside of here because they are not in the same space. Now, there are moments when you want to be able to bring an entity over to your house. Well, before you can do that, you have to make that entity special. And you do that by, within the editor, you have to change the script's execution mode from default to local. When you do that, I like to think of it as you've now made this script special, and you are able to make this call, which is this entity, i.e. this person. We're going to set its owner as the player, i.e. this. Once you've done that, they are now invited over to your house. And at that point, they're not doing anything. They're able to make network calls back over to other entities, but they are unable to really make any local calls to anyone because there's no one else in the house. They would be having a conversation with themselves and nothing would happen. So what we would need to do is we would need to go back here. We would need to make another script special by turning it local. And then we would call this entity's .owner is the player, which would invite them over to our house. And at that point, these two can be making local event calls to each other. They could also theoretically be making network calls to each other, and both of them could be making network calls to the server as well as to any other console, because the network call would be made to the server, and then the server would communicate with the other one, and then it would send back and go back and forth. So a network call is able to transcend the separate boundaries or the space between the different consoles. But when it comes to a local event, they only work when the two entities are within the same house. So to reiterate, that means let's remember that when you are starting up the game and you are initializing scripts for the first time, they are on the server. So I always get caught up when it comes to this. If I do a this world.getLocalPlayer and say I were to run it on this script, it's actually it's going to return the server and the server's properties. It's not going to return your player that's being controlled by your headset. it thinks that, well, its world is the server, and so that's what it's recognizing. So if you wanted this to actually get your own headset, you would have to make it special. You'd have to run this code so that it would then be back over on your headset, and then you could call this, and at that point this .world is your headset, and it would be able to get your local player. Now, what happens when you say this .entity.owner.set null? It means that this entity no longer has an owner, and it's going to be reset back to the server house. So this is what happens when you leave the world. All of this stuff gets put back to the server, and the server owns it. I think that goes over everything I wanted to go over. I hope the visual makes a little bit more sense. I'm oftentimes a visual learner, so I hope this resonates with visual learners. So that's it. Hope it was helpful, and I'll check you later.